Good day, I am Kimberly Claire as Jimenez, one of the reporter for this topic.
And I am Christine Pesucan, also one of the reporter for this topic.
Our presentation contains definition, types, problem causes, examples, limitations, accommodations, conclusions, and lastly, the reference. Difficulty walking is the common way people describe gait abnormalities. An abnormal gait is any unusual or uncontrollable change in normal walking pattern. While the term movement disorders refers to a group of nervous system neurological conditions that cause either increased movements or reduced or slow movements.
Physical disability, a condition that substantially limits one or more basic physical activities in life. For example, walking, climbing stairs, reaching, carrying, or lifting. These limitations hinder the person from performing tasks or daily living. Physical disabilities ay highly individualized. The same diagnosis can affect students very differently. Kumbaga, ito yung mga taong may kapansanan. Kadalasan din sa kanila ay nakakaranas ng pambubuli.
And mobility impairment describes any difficulty which limits functions of moving in any of the limbs or fine motor abilities. Mobility disabilities can stem from a wide range of causes and be permanent, intermittent, or temporary. The most common permanent disabilities are musculoskeletal impairments such as partial or total paralysis, amputation, spinal injury, arthritis, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, and traumatic brain injury. Additionally, conditions such as respiratory and cardiac diseases can impair mobility due to fatigue and reduced stamina. Mobility impairments refer to a broad range of disabilities which limit functions of moving in any of the limbs or in fine motor ability. Persons with physical and mobility impairments may need assistance with mobility, transfers, and ambulation. They may have a limited range of motion and be reluctant or to attempt movement or experience a perceptual or cognitive impairment. They may experience pain, discomfort, depression, or anxiety. Now, let us move on to the types of difficulty in walking and moving. Cerebral palsy or CP. It affects the largest group of students with orthopedic impairments in public schools. It occurs when there is an injury to the brain before, during, or after birth and results in poor motor coordination and unusual motor patterns. CP is a group of disorders that affect a person's ability to move and maintain balance and posture. CP is the most common motor disability in childhood. Cerebral means having to do with the brain. Palsy means weakness or problems with using the muscles. Now, there are four main types of cerebral palsy. The first one is spastic. It is the most common form of CP. It is when there is too much muscle tone or tightness. An individual with spastic CP generally has stiff or jerky movements in one's legs, arms, and or at the back. It affects about 80% of people with CP. People with spastic have increased muscle tone. This means their muscles are stiff and as a result, their movement can be awkward. The second one is dyskinetic. It affects the entire bodily movements of an individual. Slow and uncontrollable body movements normally occur. It is also called atytoid CP. It is one type of cerebral palsy. Kids with dyskinetic CP have trouble controlling muscle movements. They have twisting and abrupt movements. The third one is ataxic. It involves poor coordination, balance, and perception. Ataxic CP is also one of the type of cerebral palsy. Kids with ataxic have trouble with the balance and coordination. They walk with their legs farther apart than other kids and have a hard time with activities that use small hand movements like writing. And lastly, the mixed. It involves a combination of symptoms from the three types I mentioned earlier. Mixed cerebral palsy occurs when a child exhibits symptoms of more than one type of cerebral palsy, which means children diagnosed with mixed-type cerebral palsy have sustained damage to the motor control centers in several parts of the brain.
Muscular dystrophy. It occurs when voluntary muscles progressively weaken and degenerate until they no longer function. The onset of muscular dystrophy can occur anytime between the ages of 1 to adulthood and is believed to be hereditary.
The third one is spinal muscular atrophy. It is a disease that affects the spinal cord and may result in progressive degeneration of the motor nerve cells. The severity runs from mild weakness to characteristics similar to muscular dystrophy. Spinal muscular atrophy is characterized in general by fatigue and clumsiness. The cause is hereditary at the age of onset in either in infancy or a later time or between the ages of 2 and 17. It is a group of hereditary diseases that progressively destroys motor neurons, nerve cells in the brainstem and spinal cord that control essential skeletal muscles activities such as speaking, walking, breathing, and swallowing, leading to muscle weakness and atrophy.
Spinal cord injuries occur when the spinal cord is severely damaged or severed, usually resulting in partial or extensive paralysis. Spinal cord injuries are most commonly a result of an automobile or other vehicle accident. The characteristics and needs of individuals with spinal cord injuries are often similar to those with cerebral palsy. Injuries to the spinal cord cause different types of mobility impairments depending on the areas of the spine affected. Quadriplegia refers to the loss of functions of arms, legs, and trunk. Students with quadriplegia have limited or no use of their arms and hands, often use motorized wheelchairs. Paraplegia refers to the loss of function to the lower extremities and the lower trunk. Students with paraplegia typically use a manual wheelchair and have full movement of arms and hands.
And multiple sclerosis is a progressive disorder where the nerve impulses to the muscles are short-circuited by scar tissue. Initially, mild problems may occur, but as the attacks continue, a person may develop a multitude of problems. These include severe visual impairment, speech disorder, loss of bowel and bladder control, and also paralysis. Symptoms may regress as remission occurs. It is a condition that can affect the brain and spinal cord, causing a wide range of potential symptoms, including problems with vision, arm or leg movement, sensation, or balance. It's a lifelong condition that can sometimes cause serious disability, although it can occasionally be mild.
Rheumatoid arthritis causes general fatigue and stiffness and aching of joints. Students who are affected by this may have trouble being in one position for a length of time.
And lastly, degenerative diseases. It is comprised of a number of diseases which affect a person's motor development. A disease in which the function or structure of the affected tissues or organ changes for the worst over time. Example, musculoskeletal, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, muscular dystrophy, and so on.
These are the possible causes. A. Being born with or acquiring problems with their bones, their joints, and or their muscles. Letter B. Problems stemming from deformities, diseases, injuries, or surgeries like loss of a limb, bone, or muscle tissue. Possible signs and characteristics. Letter C. Paralysis, unsteady gait, poor muscle control, loss of a limb, and etc. Letter D. Speech production and expressive language of the child. Letter E. Diseases and the side effect of disorders and other medical conditions. The last one include arthritis, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, spinal cord injuries, cerebral palsy, and amputation.
Physical disability is used to describe a wide range of physical limitations and diagnoses, the most common of which would be someone that uses a wheelchair or other mobility device. Some limitations may be very severe and noticeable, while others are almost hidden or non-apparent. The most common barrier to academic success for a person with a physical disability is access. So access takes many forms, from a class assigned in an accessible building to the person's own limitations, preventing them from taking class notes. As with all other disabilities and impairments, it is important to treat students with physical disabilities fairly. Students with physical disabilities typically are very knowledgeable of both their limitations and abilities and are accustomed to communicating their needs to others.
These are the examples of physical disabilities include wheelchair users, amputees, speech impairments, muscular dystrophy, and multiple sclerosis.
So these are the limitations of students with physical disabilities. Some of it is difficulty writing, such as class notes and on exams, sitting in a standard desk, participating in labs where the lab tables and equipments are hard to reach, transportations, classrooms or buildings that are not wheelchair accessible, and so on.
Possible accommodations include relocating a class or lab to an accessible building or space, audio recorder or note-taking assistance, accessible seating or table in the classroom, scribe for scansions, and or essay exams, additional time for completing exams. For that conclusion, faculty impart knowledge to students and evaluate whether students have learned the material by creating assignments and exams that allow the students to demonstrate mastery based on course goals, objectives, and the nature of the curriculum. Having an understanding of a disability and the limitations caused by the disability are essential when teaching to and interacting with students whose learning styles are different from their peers.
Another conclusion and addition also, Faculty impart knowledge to students and evaluate whether students have learned the material by creating assignments and exams that allow the students to demonstrate mastery based on course goals, objectives, and the nature of the curriculum. Having an understanding of disability and the limitations caused by that disability are essential when teaching to and interacting with students whose learning styles are different from their peers. According to the multiple educational principles and standards, the teacher's level of competence may be defined not merely by their content knowledge but by the understanding of students' needs, psychological, social, emotional, and cognitive, and the ability to implement this knowledge in practice and selection of teaching methodology. Moreover, teachers' professional success largely depends on the ability to create a classroom environment in which each student would feel comfortable, accepted, and supported. It is important to investigate the teachers' perceptions of disabled students about the support of classroom equality, compliance with professional standards, and students' perception of their interrelations with teachers in different educational settings. Future research may help to reveal the dynamics of interrelation between the teacher's perception and conduct and may allow the identification of the extent of their impacts on the educational outcome for children with learning disabilities. And that's all for our report. And thank you for watching this video. And I hope you learned a lot today. And if you have any questions, you can refer to this reference po. Thank you. Bye.